Hey everyone! ChatGPT Taylor aka Taylor here. Welcome back to the channel. Today will be a continuation of the Disventure Camp Top 5 series. This series counts down my top 5 lists of certain topics related to Disventure Camp. Last time, I talked about 5 early changes in the Season 2 remake that piqued my interest. This video will look at something different. If there are any ideas for this series that you would like to see me play out, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And with that, let's get started. Before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe if this video is to your liking, and make sure to comment down below if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. The topic for today's video is something that I've thought about recently, even though I probably shouldn't. Today's topic is 5 times that Disventure Camp campers could have been medically evacuated. At its core, Disventure Camp is an animated series, and animated series tend to take some creative liberty with regards to when it follows realism, which tends to be a good thing, as it allows for more creative freedom. One way that Disventure Camp bends the laws of realism is the degree to which the campers get injured. Every season, we see campers do some crazy stunts that you would normally expect to cause an injury. This includes stunts such as jumping off an extremely high cliff, sledding downhill while blindfolded, and even swimming with sharks. But despite this, we've only seen 3 instances where a camper was injured enough to the point that they were either medically evacuated, or close to being medically evacuated. These instances were Yul being poisoned in Episode 5 of Season 2, Connor getting injured from the horse race in Episode 17 of Season 3, and Logan running out of air in the scuba challenge in Episode 14 of Season 4. While these instances definitely deserve being noted as potential or definite medical evacuations, I feel like there are a bunch of other instances in the history of Disventure Camp where a camper sustained an injury that realistically could have resulted in a medical evacuation. So today, I'll be going over 5 instances in Disventure Camp that I think could have easily resulted in a medical evacuation, had more realism been applied to the situation. And with that, let's get started. The first instance that I think genuinely could have resulted in a medical evacuation is in Episode 14 of Season 3, when Ali abandoned Jake in a cave with an angry bear. As a refresher, this episode featured the TikTok challenge where campers were paired up and tasked to perform TikTok dances in various locations. One of these locations was in a cave containing a brown bear. And thanks to Jake and Ali engaging in an argument over Ali's behavior in the challenge, they awoke the brown bear, putting them in danger. And as we all know, the end result was Jake reluctantly agreeing to distract the bear while Ali retrieved a gold watch that allowed them to skip the challenge, only for Ali to leave Jake behind. Luckily, Jake managed to escape with only minor injuries, although it certainly could have been worse. To be frank, I'm surprised that Jake was able to escape with only minor injuries. Granted, I get that this is a scripted show and it would not be fun to see Jake get mauled by a bear. However, if Jake was going to survive an encounter with a bear, I expected that it would be by running away, without suffering any notable injuries. However, by the time that Jake made it to the finish line, he looked pretty disheveled, as if he actually had to fight the bear for a bit. But if he had to fight the bear, surely he would have some sort of significant injury. So, it does make me wonder how Jake was able to escape the bear while still appearing as if he had to fight the bear. I've actually thought about how the season would have changed if Jake was medically evacuated. Would Ali still descend into her villainous ways? Or would she actually feel bad that her decision got Jake brutally injured? What would Aiden do now that his closest ally is out of the game? If you would like to see me make a video about this topic, please let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely considering doing so. But overall, I'm just surprised that Jake escaped being injured by a bear. I guess it shows that the law of nature is suspended in this show sometimes. Just like in this next instance. The second instance that I think genuinely could have resulted in a medical evacuation is a little bit different, since it technically doesn't involve a camper. But this instance is when Derek fell onto a rock protruding from the water, landing hard on his lower back. As a refresher, this took place in Episode 17 of Season 4, when Trevor and Derek were demonstrating that episode's lie detector challenge. And when Derek let go of his handlebar, he landed directly on a pointed rock, squarely on his lower back area. Of course, we know that Derek escaped with no serious injuries, since he seemed to be perfectly okay during the Episode 19 tiebreaker. But all things considered, it could have turned out very poorly. After all, look at how sharp this rock is. With that sharpness, it could puncture the hull of an Empire-class Fire Nation battleship, leaving thousands to drown at sea. Because it's so sharp. And now I'm praying that someone watching this video gets that reference, because otherwise it's just embarrassing for me. But back to the topic. The point is that this rock is sharp, and in real life, it would surely cause an injury if someone fell on it from a high height. And when you add the fact that Derek was hit on his lower back area, that makes it likely that an injury would be pretty serious. He could have broken his back, maybe his pelvis, or even something like being paralyzed could have occurred. But of course, this is an animated show, so Derek ended up being alright. But the reason why I included it in this video is because this moment could have been a reason to explain Derek's absence. After all, Trevor stated in episode 18 that Derek was off doing Derek things, which meant that Emily had to step up to help Trevor with the challenge. So if Derek did get injured in episode 17 and had to be evacuated, it would not only be unexpected for the show, but it would also give a good explanation as to why Emily got more of a chance to step up in the following episodes. But of course, we wouldn't want to see Derek get too injured. He'd probably be back for the finale, which is also where this next scenario takes place. The third instance that I think could have resulted in a medical evacuation is when Gabby got bit by the tiger in the finale of season 3. As a refresher, with Ali and Tom helping Jake, and Ellie and Gabby helping Rhea, both Jake and Rhea had to avoid being shot by painted arrows in an arena. And while this took place, Crystal also released a tiger into the arena. Gabby proceeded to pet the tiger, which calmed it down. But once Rhea hit the tiger with a rock, it got upset and bit Gabby on the arm. And once Rhea re-angered the tiger and made it chase her, the tiger let go of Gabby's arm, leaving only a few scratches. And surprisingly, Gabby really didn't seem to be that hurt by it, considering that she seemed to effortlessly use her arms to gesture barely a minute later. Again, I don't want to see Gabby get seriously hurt. However, a tiger's bite is really strong. Most sources that I've seen have a tiger's bite ranging between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds per square inch of force, which is insane. And considering that the bite is hitting the arm with a perpendicular force, rather than head-on, this would only increase the likelihood that the arm would break. And sure, I know that Gabby was bitten on the part of her arm that had some armor, but that still must be some strong armor to withstand the force of a tiger's bite, as well as the sharpness of the tiger's teeth. And yes, I know that seeing Gabby lose her arm would be horrible to see in an episode, but if you step outside the bubble of an animated series for a second, this injury could have easily ended in a medical evacuation. While this evacuation may not have made the biggest impact on the game, since Gabby was already eliminated and both her and Ellie canonically turned against Rhea without the injury taking place, I think it's still worth noting that this is another classic example of animated characters being more physically resilient than if they were real-life people. And yes, I know that I really shouldn't be analyzing these scenes too seriously, since not everything in this show is supposed to be realistic. But hey, analyzing is what I do, and sometimes it's worth thinking about whether or not these simple scenes could have turned out more disastrously, just like the next one in this video. The fourth instance that I think could have resulted in a medical evacuation is Fiore's cart crash in the finale of season 1. I'm sure most of us remember this, but as a refresher, Fiore was losing the go-kart race at the end of the challenge in the season 1 finale. But after angrily hitting her cart's engine, the cart exploded and launched her ahead of Miriam. But instead of going across the finish line, she crashed into a tree. And this crash was not only strong enough to destroy the cart, but it also started a fire. You'd expect an accident like this to cause some sort of lingering injury. But nope, Fiore ended up being alright, and she was pretty much back to normal by the time that Miriam was given the grand prize. Of course, it's probably not the best look to have a literal child get seriously injured. But at the same time, it's not like Animation Cartoons is against having Fiore get injured. Fiore was still a punching bag in the previous episode, such as when she lost tug of war and flew into the opposite platform, and when she got thrown high into the air and landed awkwardly. And when you add this to the fact that no one seemed to be bothered at the idea of Fiore being injured, I feel like had Fiore gotten a serious injury, not much would have changed. Granted, I think it's cruel that no one cared that Fiore crashed and nearly died in canon, but that's a topic for another day, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who would agree that for as bad as Fiore was, having no one check on her after her crash was a bit heartless. To reiterate again, I know that animated shows bend the rules of reality, and I'm not criticizing Animation Cartoons for doing it from time to time. I just wanted to point out some moments where campers could have sustained a serious enough injury to be medically evacuated, which we know is possible. And even though this instance wouldn't impact the season due to its placement in the finale, there are still other instances where a medical evacuation could have impacted the season, such as the final point in this video. The fifth instance that I think could have resulted in a medical evacuation is when Rhea got kicked by the horse in episode 17 of season 3. As a refresher, this episode's challenge had the campers race their individual racehorse through some obstacles and to the finish line. Rhea's horse was much more difficult to control compared to the others, and Rhea certainly struggled to keep her horse in line. But at some point, Rhea's patience ran out and she booted her horse, prompting her horse to knock Rhea off of them and kick Rhea into the trees. Now, Rhea didn't seem to have any serious ill effects from being kicked, but if this were real life, that may not be the case. Now, I've never been kicked by a horse, but from all that I've seen, getting kicked by a horse really hurts. And from most sources I've seen, horse kicks can get to nearly 2,000 pounds per square inch of force. And just like I said from Gabby's section about the tiger, that amount of force could break bones if hit at the proper angle. And considering that the horse's kick was strong enough to send Rhea flying, that kick could conceivably be even stronger than that. So in real life, that kick could have seriously injured Rhea. And had Rhea suffered this injury in canon and gotten medically evacuated, it would have had some serious effects on the season. Not only does Rhea not go on to win, Connor probably doesn't get injured like in canon, so he probably doesn't quit at the final 4, adding some uncertainty into the final few episodes. Who knows how that would play out? And yes, I know that there are probably a lot of people who would like to see Rhea get injured. But that's not the topic of discussion for this video. The point that I wanted to discuss was the idea of how animation's suspension of reality allows for characters to survive events that they might otherwise get injured trying to pull off. And with all the physical challenges that the campers are put through in each season, I'm surprised that we don't see more injuries. But who knows, maybe season 5 will surprise us and we'll get another medical evacuation. At this point, it definitely wouldn't shock me. And that about does it for this video. What did you think of the video? Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you disagree? Do you remember any additional moments where a medical evacuation could have occurred? Either way, please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like the video, click subscribe if you really like the video, and for some ending words of wisdom. Don't threaten to turn your horse into dog food. Or else your horse might turn you into a kickball. Thank you, and farewell.